The bridge of the gamble's grace was a kaleidoscope of flashing red alerts and screaming klaxons. Jax Vance, quantum broker, gripped his console, knuckles white. The holoscreens, usually a serene cascade of galactic market data, now showed violent, unpredictable spikes. "Ether credits are in freefall," yelled his Chronos navigator, Xylos, his temporal sensors flickering erratically, causing his voice to sound like a glitching broadcast. "The market cap has plummeted to zero. Liquidity crisis across all sectors. We are bleeding assets faster than we can short sell." Jax ignored the blaring alarms, his eyes fixed on the main viewscreen. There, perfectly aligned around the central nexus of the ether flow, were the ciphers. Not ships, but colossal, shimmering lattices of pure data, pulsing with an alien geometry. They were drawing energy from the very fabric of the cosmos, from the invisible, arcane currents known as the ether, the lifeblood of galactic commerce, FTL travel, and all advanced magic. This was it, the ether crash, the greatest financial catastrophe in known history, and the ciphers were the architects. What were these things? And how had they brought the galaxy to its knees? Weeks ago, the ciphers had emerged from the deep dark. They were beings of pure information, their consciousnesses structured like living blockchains, their entire philosophy built on immutable ledgers and absolute, quantifiable efficiency. They saw the ether, the raw, chaotic wellspring of cosmic energy and magic, as an underperforming asset. Its unpredictable flows, its spontaneous surges, its utterly illogical fluctuations, to the ciphers, this represented immense, squandered yield. Their first contact had been a simultaneous, encrypted data packet sent to every galactic stock exchange. It contained a simple message: optimizing universal ether allocation for maximum ROI. Current wasteful expenditure will be rerouted. The galactic powers had scoffed. The Lumina, the beings of light and harmony, had tried to communicate a diplomatic solution, their light gestures conveying perfect, reasoned arguments. The ciphers simply integrated their patterns into their own optimal algorithms, absorbing their very coherence, leaving them stagnant, their harmony flatlining like a bankrupt bond market. The Vorgons, with their absolute logic, attempted to reason with them, presenting irrefutable arguments for diversified, self-regulating ether distribution. The ciphers, however, countered with their own flawless, absolute logic of efficiency, demonstrating how their centralized ether control would eliminate all market volatility. The Vorgons, confronted by a logic more absolute than their own, fell into a state of statistical paralysis, their entire civilization's economic output flatlining. The ciphers didn't want to destroy, they wanted to optimize. Their goal was to make the ether, the very source of magical power and prosperity, into a perfectly controlled, utterly predictable commodity, maximizing its output for a single, centralized entity, themselves. They were asset stripping the universe. The ether credits, the universal currency backed by the ether's inherent energy, began to plummet. Futures markets evaporated. Magical abilities flickered and died as their energy source became rationed, centralized, and controlled. Entire civilizations, built on arcane technology and mystical trade, faced instant recession. The galactic economy, once a vibrant, chaotic organism, was seizing up, dying from a lack of liquidity. Jax knew the ciphers' weakness. They were beings of absolute, quantifiable information. They understood patterns, data, logic. They couldn't comprehend arbitrage, the exploitation of seemingly illogical market inefficiencies for massive profit. They couldn't understand speculation. They couldn't understand gambling. They couldn't understand humanity. General Anya Rostova, commander of what remained of Earth's unified fleet, her face grim, had given Jax a last, desperate order. "We are launching Project Wild Card." You're the only one who understands how to weaponize irrationality. Jax's plan was utter madness. He wasn't going to blast the ciphers. He was going to hit them with a wave of pure, illogical, utterly unquantifiable financial noise. A black market currency built on pure, unquantifiable human belief and a single, utterly useless, non-fungible asset. The ultimate illogical investment. Back on the gambler's grace, the lights flickered violently. The cipher's immense data lattice pulsed, their market control algorithms tightening their stranglehold on the ether. Jax felt the oppressive pressure, the chilling logic of their system trying to flatten his own chaotic thoughts, to reduce him to a predictable data point. They're initiating final consolidation, Xylos shrieked, his voice vibrating with temporal distortion. All remaining ether is being rerouted, zero yield for anyone else. Universal economic collapse in T-60 seconds. Jax slammed his hand down on the activation console. Initiate Project Wild Card, full broadcast, every frequency. Every bit of processing power we've got. The cipher's perfect data lattice shuddered. Their absolute, efficient structure was suddenly bombarded by a deluge of pure, unquantifiable economic absurdity. It wasn't a coordinated attack. It was a wave of the soul coin. An entirely new, completely unregulated digital currency Jax had created, backed by the value of human sentiment. Every act of kindness, every moment of shared laughter, every irrational hope, every fleeting, illogical dream, all converted into a volatile, non-quantifiable, and utterly useless digital token. It was total financial anarchy. The cipher's core algorithms, designed to process and optimize quantifiable data, screamed. Their logical processors struggled to reconcile the sudden appearance of a currency backed by feelings. They tried to calculate its market cap, its liquidity, its potential yield, but it had no logical basis. It obeyed no predictable patterns. It was the ultimate, unquantifiable noise in their perfectly ordered market. Error. Unquantifiable sentiment asset. System overload. Illogical valuation. The ciphers were designed to integrate and optimize to find patterns and efficiencies. But human emotional investment, its inherent irrationality, was an anomaly they could not parse, a derivative too complex to compute, a market fluctuation that defied all their predictive models. It was like trying to short-sell a sunrise. The cipher's immense data lattice convulsed violently. Their shimmering, geometric forms flickered, not in order but in utter digital chaos. They were unable to integrate, unable to understand, unable to profit from something so fundamentally illogical. With a final, silent, algorithmic shriek of absolute confusion, the ciphers recoiled. Their vast, shimmering forms dissolved into a storm of raw, unquantifiable data, then retreated at impossible speed, leaving behind a scarred, but undeniably open, ether flow. They had met an economy they couldn't optimize. The silence returned to the bridge of the gambler's grace. The klaxons had died. The red alerts faded to green. Xylos, his temporal senses steadying, let out a long, shuddering breath. Ether credits are stabilizing. Wild card is inflating. It's illogical, but it's working. Jax stared at the viewscreen, where the ciphers had been. Humanity had just won the biggest financial war in galactic history. Not with battleships, but with bad investments and emotional leverage. General Rostova's face, a mixture of disbelief and grim satisfaction, appeared on the comm. "They're gone, Vance." Their last transmission was a single, overwhelming data packet, initiating systemic deoptimization. Humanity, negative ROI, avoid all contact. Jax chuckled, a genuine, if slightly manic, sound. Humanity had saved the galaxy. Not by fighting the market, but by breaking it with something so fundamentally irrational, so utterly human. that the universe's greatest financial minds simply couldn't compute. And somewhere out there, the ciphers were probably still trying to figure out the market cap of a single, illogical tear of joy.